Okay, hey, what's up? Um, I have a kind of an interesting project here. I've had this guitar here for a while, and it's a no name. It's a toy, basically. It's not really a musical instrument, I wouldn't call it. But there's room for improvement on every guitar. This particular one, I could have sworn that either the bridge saddles were too high because it just had hellacious distance between the upper fretboard and the strings. And it just seemed like those saddles were really, really high. So when I lowered the saddles, um, if you can see on this, the pickups are raised right here in the middle. There's a hump. There's single magnet pickups, and there's a hump in the middle, and the strings were buzzing on the hump with steel travel between the string and the upper fretboard. Well, generally what that tells me is that the truss bar needs adjustment, and it lost its back bow, and it needs to bow forward for when you push down on the frets in the center that they don't buzz on the upper frets. And that's the problem with this guitar is it was actually buzzing in both places. It would buzz on the lower frets because this nut here has been replaced. I had a white nut on it, and then it was given. I gave this away for a while, and somebody got a hold of it because the tuning keys were messed up, the screws were stripped out, the saddle bridge saddles were all in the wrong positions, and the input jack on the back was broke. I don't know if you can see that. The wire, when they try to tighten it up, sometimes if you don't have a nut on both sides, that it'll spin, and it'll continue to spin, and it spins round and round and round until that wire snaps off. And unfortunately, it's one wire that goes to these input jacks, and it's got a center positive and an outside ground wire, but it's all encased in the same encasement. Anyway, so that's the problem there. What I've done on this guitar, though, is let me see this because I'm not looking through the lens. I installed a female RCA jack on the outside of this guitar here, and not only just to bypass the spinning, quarter-inch input jack, but I didn't have an amplifier for a long time, but I had a really killer stereo tuner, and I was able to just take a regular, RCA cord and plug it directly into the guitar, and then use the auxiliary input in the back of the stereo, and just switch the dial from FM to auxiliary input. Now, you probably know this, but if you have a CD input, it boosts the signal, and like if you want a clean sound, you go in through your CD and put your input on CD, and you can use an RCA jack and crank it up. It works great. It's got a good rich fat tone to it. But if you go in through the phono jack, that has a lower impedance and a lower signal, lower voltage. And what happens there when you crank it up is you'll get distortion. And that's it. You won't get a clean sound out of it, but that's pretty cool. So, number of things that are going on. To recap, the tuning keys were messed up. They were loose and stripped. The nut is the wrong. Right now, this nut is a little bit too low, just a tiny bit too low. And I don't want to use a filler like, a lot of people put a toothpick or something in there and let the string rest on top of the toothpick. And that raises the string, and, but it mutes it. It mutes the sound of the vibration of the string. Also, what can do that is if you don't have a back groove, in other words, at an angling down toward the back, where the string, when it leaves the nut, it should leave at a sharp edge. You want that edge to be a little bit sharper, and that lets the tone of the string ring out for longer, won't mute it down. Now, these saddles here are all the way down right now. They're actually, the adjustment screws are all the way out. They're just tensioned a little bit to keep them from falling out. But all of these are sitting on the plate, and the plate is a little bit too thick for this guitar, really. And the pickup is about as far down as it will go. I might have to open it up, pull it off, and then adjust it from the back side to let it go down, because you know how to lower it, you have to loosen the screws, and the screws are practically falling out. The other thing that's wrong with this guitar, and it's nobody's fault, and it just happened, this is the volume knob, but the tone knob back here has broke off flush. So I'm thinking about maybe, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I really don't. Even if you pull the nut off to have it loose, it spins okay. It's not too hard to spin, but you got to really push down on it with your thumb. So, recap. Pickup's too high. The bridge is too high. It leaves too much gap space, and I've got it down low now where I'm going to try it out. But I'm getting fret buzz still right above the 12th fret, which is pretty much common for weathering. And I really didn't take weathering into consideration. You know, it's not a real good wood. This guitar probably cost $69 at a Toys R Us back in the day. But, you know, like I said, every guitar can be improved on. I didn't notice this until, we're getting to the punchline here. After adjusting the truss rod and the pickups and the bridge and everything like that to lower these strings, I noticed with a flashlight, I'm getting on the back side of these frets and on the edge of the frets. Now, I knew this with this guitar before. A long time ago, the E string would sometimes slip off the fretboard and get hung up because the frets had a little, I thought they were like a little bit too wide, you know, coming over the edge a little bit because you can feel it was sharp, but they're lifting. The wood is pushing them out from the heat and the coolness. When it heats up and cools down, there's moisture in the air, and it hasn't been kept in a case, and it's just been tossed around like a toy. Well, that wood swells and condenses and, you know, contracts and expands, and it pushes those frets out of the wood. And that's exactly what has happened, but you can't really see it with your eye, but when you put light behind it, and you can see the light coming through the underneath side, and it's just the top two, the B and the E string. So I'm in the process of tapping those down on that side of the guitar, not the whole fret, but from the 12th fret up, it's just tapping them down in order all the way up to reduce and get rid of that buzz, because really the strings are in pretty good standing right now. They're not too far. If anything, it needs a little bit raise on the nut here so they don't buzz on the low end. But they look pretty good and pretty even all the way down, and they sound good all the way up to the 12th fret. And they start buzzing because those frets are raised. So that's that. And then the recap, and I soldered the wires back together for the input. But with the RCA jack, you know, I just use that. I have an adapter that I use. It's a cord that has, where's my cheater cord? Let's see, it's here somewhere. Anyways, it's got two, you know, RCA jacks on one side of it, and on the other side of it, it's got a 1/8" stereo jack, something like, can you see it? Something like this, you know, 1/8". Well, I use one of these little adapters, and there it is there with the adapter. I should turn the light on so you can see better, but you plug that 1/8" into this, and then it gives you the 1/4" out the other end, and then that goes directly into the amp. Oh, there it is. It's plugged into the amp. So here it is. Here, look. Here, I'm gonna switch you around. Let me see. Shoot, where'd it go? I can't do it while it's running. Anyways, yeah, you can see here on this side of the cord is the RCA jacks, and you only need the white one, even though it's a stereo plug, and it shouldn't be. Well, this one's actually a stereo 1/8" plugged into a 1/4" mono. It's an instrument jack. But you see, it comes out like that, and you just You just plug into that little hole there, and it sounds great. Maybe when I get this all tuned up and ready to go, that and the whole thing, the strings were all rusted and falling apart, needed new strings. So I put on some bronze wound strings that they have a good pounce to them and really good tone, but they're kind of hard to bend, you know. They're a little bit harder on your fingers, but they sound a lot better, you know. Anyways, that's that. I'll get back to you next time, man. Don's Guitar Shop. See you later.